I have a theory that social media companies are trying to get themselves regulated on purpose. And I was thinking about this a little while ago because right now, Google, Facebook, Twitter, they lose money because of bad speech, and they're forced to keep bowing down to these fringe far left activists. So why then would they want regulation? Because as I've pointed out time and time again, regulation can only ratchet in one direction, guaranteeing speech. The government does not have the ability to constrain speech because of the First Amendment in most capacities. There's actually a First Amendment argument Twitter has where they can say, I am under no obligation to publish someone else's statement. But that's if they're a publisher. So right now, they're a platform. It's not your speech. It's our speech. Here's the thing. What happens when they get regulated and must allow all speech? Well, then the advertisers go to Facebook and Google and say, I don't want to advertise next to that nasty speech. And they go, there's nothing we can do about it. See, Facebook and Google own more than half of the ad market online. Seriously, of all advertising. What happens then when the government says you cannot constrain speech and they create a platform where they enact a law or regulation guaranteeing access to massive social media platforms of a certain size as a civil right? Now Facebook, Twitter, Google, mostly Facebook and Google can say, look, if you want to run ads with us, you have no choice. Now, that's pretty much good news for us. It's bad news for the advertisers. But that's how the real world works. If you want to put up a billboard and some, pro-lifer wiggles a sign near it, there's nothing you can do about it. So here's the thing. Co-founder of Facebook, Chris Hughes, and Mark Zuckerberg have both called for regulation. Of course, Mark Zuckerberg, I think, is just trying to get in front of regulation. It's coming. Texas Tribune reported on this. We've got a law in California, a failed attempt in Florida. Regulation is coming. You will not be able to shut down people based on hate speech or their opinions. Legal speech will be protected. So Facebook doesn't want to get broken up. How can they prevent this? By encouraging regulation and being a guiding force to push it in the direction they want. Chris Hughes is a co-founder of Facebook, and he was their former spokesperson, I believe. He's saying break them up. But he's also saying the government needs to regulate speech. Allergies, forgive me. But we can't. So I agree. It's time to break up Facebook. Facebook as a platform started dying off. They're bleeding 17 million millennials. Good. Facebook grew too powerful. They're doing bad things. Their time has come. Instagram started to emerge, a competitor. It's a different platform, but people were more interested in using that. So what did Facebook do? They bought them up. And this is how the market works. This is why I'm not a free market capitalist, okay? You think that you're choosing between different brands of beer? It's all Anheuser-Busch. They own it all. You think you're choosing, what is that? Have you ever noticed Red Lobster and Olive Garden are always next to each other? Yes, because they're owned by, my understanding is they're owned by the same company. So they want to give you the illusion of choice. And it's on purpose. Because then you can say, you were mean to me, I'm going to go to your rival. And they go, oh, rats, you're going to our other company. And so here's what happens. People say, Facebook is bad. Everyone got to leave Facebook. I'm going to go to Instagram. And Mark Zuckerberg's like, idiots. So Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want to be broken up. And Chris Hughes is saying they should be, and I think they should be as well. If Facebook is no longer a tool we want to use as a society, and it starts dying off, good. But Mark Zuckerberg is using the power he built up to latch onto other companies and form a massive monopoly over various platforms. Not good. So I think there's a point where we have to be careful. We don't want to punish success. We want to encourage success. But there is an upper limit. At what point do we say Facebook has crossed the line and needs to be broken up or just regulated to an extreme degree? And I mean that extreme degree, like you can't remove this, you can't algorithmically manipulate this, things like that. There's a big challenge in the regulation argument in that something else could happen in that advertisers say, we just don't want to have anything to do with you. It's bad for our brand. And then these companies actually collapse because regulation doesn't work that way. You also can't regulate technology, so you can't make them create an algorithm to do something. If it doesn't exist, you can't force them to create it. Let's read a little bit about what Chris Hughes had to say and the story. They say that Hughes says he has watched with horror as the company he helped create has grown into a behemoth through the acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp, threatening to crush free speech and stifle competitive innovation. Look at this photo. Look at these little college students. Back before Mark Zuckerberg was destroying the planet. But he still wanted to. I think, in my personal opinion, I think this dude's like a sociopath. Yahoo apparently offered them $1 billion, and he was like, meh. It's like, that's kind of weird. Well, I don't blame him, I guess. Not everybody wants to. I don't want to hold that against them. They say, unilateral control over speech is the most dire threat Facebook poses, and I agree completely. Now, he's wrong. He thinks we can regulate what is allowed on these platforms. You can't. But I do think Facebook deciding who wins and loses elections is terrifying. Twitter banning political campaigns, extremely terrifying. He says, there is no precedent for his ability to monitor, organize, and even censor the conversations of 2 billion people. Mark's influence is staggering, far beyond that of anyone else in the private sector or in government. Think about this. If everybody in the world was on Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg could make it so that you can't hear certain things. It's quite literally world domination. Now, he's not going to control literally every aspect, but he'll have such immense power, and he already does. He could destroy businesses overnight. He could snap his fingers and say, we're banning BuzzFeed. It's our platform. I was told by somebody who has done work with Facebook, he said, the attitude of Facebook is, you started a business with our technology, and it's your problem if we take it away or restrict it. So think about what happens when Facebook monopolizes the public square. And this is what's happening. It's not just Twitter. It's Facebook, Google, and Twitter. It's a private platform. They can do what they want, right? Yup. So you build the business, and then Facebook says, BuzzFeed. Delete all BuzzFeed links. And someone goes, boom, BuzzFeed is gone. That's what they did to InfoWars. And you're only allowed to have an opinion about InfoWars if it's a negative opinion. Think about how dystopian that is. Facebook has got to go. Let's read a little bit more. Hughes said that Zuckerberg has virtually unlimited control over algorithms that determine what each of billions of Facebook users see in their newsfeed, what privacy settings they can use, and even which messages they receive on the platform. They can shut down your access to your parents. And they gave access to your private messages to massive corporations. He sets the rules for how to distinguish violent and incendiary speech from the merely offensive. And he can choose to shut down a competitor by acquiring, blocking, or copying it. They tried copying Snapchat. It didn't work. Nick Clegg, Facebook's vice president of global affairs and communications, responded to Hughes' op-ed in a statement to dailymail.com. Facebook accepts that with success comes accountability, but you don't enforce accountability by calling for the breakup of a successful American company. I completely disagree. If you are monopolizing the space and you're growing too powerful, that's literally what antitrust is for. Who's a real competitor? They say, build your own social media network. Okay, Gab does. What do? They get smeared and destroyed by the press. And it's funny because Facebook is destroying media, yet these companies still act like lackeys for Facebook, protecting their massive tech monopoly or triopoly. There's very few social media platforms that exist. And Facebook has more engagements and more users in their network than most of the others combined. Like he actually shows a graphic where Facebook has this massive sphere of influence with WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook, and then Google and Twitter are much, much smaller. It's because Facebook is buying up these platforms. Accountability of tech companies can only be achieved through the painstaking introduction of new rules for the internet. That is exactly what Mark Zuckerberg has called for. Indeed, he is meeting government leaders this week to further that work. But Mark Zuckerberg wants to be in front of it, to guide it. What Chris Hughes is calling for is a new regulatory agency to censor tech companies. I don't disagree. Amazon, Twitter, Facebook, Google are too powerful. They need rules. These companies siphon money through their services, dominating the media landscape, controlling advertising revenue on digital, and then they funnel this money overseas and hide it from the US. They pay very little in taxes. They're not participating in our society. There's a difference between success and exploitation. If Amazon is going to slowly take over commerce and they're banning books from conservatives and they're banning movies and speech from conservatives, I have to wonder why they're doing it. Target, I guess because they know when it comes to BuzzFeed, Vox, Vice, NBC, New York Times, are these platforms going to complain that conservatives are getting banned? Nope. They know Stephen Colbert won't talk about it. They know Seth Meyers and Jimmy Kimmel won't talk about it. But if they banned any of those people on the left, there'd be an uproar. So they want to make sure they can remove anyone who dare challenges their encroaching power, and they're going to start with the right. Because for some reason, marketing is just not in tune with conservatives. They're not. As I mentioned in a previous video, on a graph where they show Twitter accounts, progressives and journalists overlap, and brand marketing and the resistance overlap. So I think ultimately, Chris Hughes brings up a lot of good points. I think it's about time we push this conversation harder than we've ever done, because these platforms are evil. They do things bad. Look, the individuals behind them may be good people, but the machines are growing out of control, and we have to constrain them. We have to protect the speech of people, of individuals, protect the rights of individuals. Chris is wrong. We can't regulate speech. The government won't be able to do that. But they will be able to regulate the platforms from inhibiting speech and blocking people they don't like, people who might speak up against them. It's a challenge. It really is. I don't have all the answers. I'm going to leave it there. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the main channel at 10 a.m. I'll see you tomorrow on this channel at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out.